So I'm going to document this process because I've noticed in my trawl through the internet that there's seemingly very little information on repairing ceilings which are reed and plaster. There's lots of bits and bobs about it, but nobody's actually shown me on a video how to do it. So I should be having a crack at it, but I thought maybe I'd film my exploits. I've got quite a large bedroom here. The ceiling has probably been up for, I'm going to guess, at least 200 years, if it's the original reed ceiling. It's not bad. There's a couple of areas of issue. One is here where I put my foot through when I was in the loft when a beam collapsed. Secondly, you have an area here which has sagged. And then thirdly, there is an area here which was a previous water leak from the roof. Upstairs, the roof is slate with no membrane, so therefore once they get a leak it comes straight through onto the ceiling and cause the damage as shown. Anyway, so the room, I'm doing the whole room. The plan is to take away, there's paper all over the ceiling and walls, to remove the paper from the ceiling and walls to establish what kind of plastering is needed to be done on the walls. I'm hoping to repair and then skim the entire room is the plan, using lime plaster. I'm going to remove this cupboard here. I've no issue with doing that. It's a later addition to the house, and it's going to cause issues with how I'm going to have the bedroom layout. So that will be coming down. Yeah, so I shall try and film my exploits as I go along. My initial plan is going to be to try and cut away sections of the ceiling which are sagging or loose, and then order some reed. There's a company that still does it in sheets. I think they're 1 metre by 1 metre. I'll order some sheets of reed in order to repair the areas that need repairing, and then have a go at plastering them up and then skimming the entire ceiling. I'm hoping the ceiling is going to be good enough to stay, otherwise it's going to be a hell of a job and a hell of a mess. But we'll see how we get on. I'll update you once I've started removing the ceiling. Right, so wallpaper and ceiling paper finally stripped off, cupboard gone. I've tried to identify the areas on the ceiling which are probably pretty much as I thought they were going to be. There's the one over here where there's been the leak, which fell off as soon as I took the paper off. And then over in this corner, it's all quite loose here. Not too bad, but loose enough to replace. Then there is a small area over here. Again, it's had some sort of repair in the past, but it's just quite saggy. And there's one more area just here, again, been repaired in the past. It's quite loose, so we'll have that down as well. So there's more good ceiling than there is bad. I would be reluctant to take the whole thing down because I want to leave the reeds. The soundproofing is really good, the insulation is really good on it. Very expensive to re-reed the whole roof, and I'm not convinced I have the skill set to be able to do the whole roof with a reed. So I'll try and do the patching as per the original plan, unless of course once I start to once I start to cut those out, they cause further damage to the stable bits of the ceiling, but we'll see how that goes. Well, this is a messy old job. Right, okay, I've had a good strip around the room now, and identified the areas in the ceiling that I'm going to patch. The problem was it was in danger of becoming like Trigger's broom, because as you removed a section you kind of disturbed the area near it, but I think now everything is around is kind of as sturdy as it can be. So I've now got a section here. I tried to cut onto the joists so I can just reattach to the joists. Got a section here. I've got a section here, one here, and I have a section here. There is an area over here which is a little bit springy, but I don't think it's enough to worry about because it's quite sturdy, but I suppose it's the springiest bit left in the ceiling, so I'm going to leave that. I've ordered some reed which I'm going to try and patch up those areas with, and then we'll have a go at plastering. And then we've got a bit of wall plastering to do as well. There's a strange lintel in here in the middle of this wall. Not quite sure what that was for. Bear in mind I'm on the first floor, so it's not a door. Christ knows. Anyway, I'll update you once I get the reed and swept up a bit. Chopped a bit more out the ceiling today to try, and problem is every time you chop a bit it makes another bit slightly loose, but we're still mostly good ceiling as opposed to mostly bad, so I'm going to plough on. I think the strategy is I've cut out the lathes, or lathes, which is where the reed was being held up in between these. I think my strategy is going to be to cut the new reed to go into the space, then reattach these sections I've cut out, and then where they meet old sections I'll try and bridge both of them as best I can to try and add a little bit of support to these bits here. Hopefully the plaster that goes on will also do that job as well. So that's the plan for this morning. Start cutting the reed, which hopefully I can do with secateurs. So the reed board has arrived today. 2 metre by 1 metre sheets. I've got 3, hoping that will be enough to do my patching. It's, I think, 15mm or maybe 20mm wide and banded, and it should be fairly easy to cut. Although what I might do is try and keep it in sections that if I cut it, it still remains some rigidity. I'll have a think about how I'm going to do that, but there it is. It's quite firm, so hopefully it's quite easy to plaster onto, but I'll have a go at putting some of that up tomorrow. So after a lot of mess, looks like something from the Three Little Pigs in here. Reasonable success, I think. I've managed to replace 5 sections here. That one, this large one, this one, and the final one in the corner is bigger than it should have been because as I started to remove some bits, the whole corner fell out. So that's that one there. Now this one has quite a bow on it, even though it's been redone. Those battens will be quite close to the surface. There was always a bit of a bow here, but it's because the joists above us are so, they're actually joined in some areas. I think there's probably a join where there's one here and one here, and they're just really, really wonky. So you'd never be able to plasterboard this ceiling anyway because they are so wonky. I mean, you can't really probably see it on the film, but the bend on the ceiling there is huge. But anyway, so that's done. Now I've got to try and plaster it, and I'm not looking forward to it, if I'm honest. It feels fairly rigid, but plastering a ceiling anyway isn't my favourite, let alone onto essentially reed. Okay, so I have now put a first coat onto the patches. I've used this fine lime mix to go on there. It's actually really flexible, that one, for quite a while, so I'll probably have to leave it for a good couple of weeks to go off, I would imagine. It still probably needs another coat of that to level it out, but it took well to the reeds, which was a relief because I sort of worried that it would bounce off of them. There's some reeds, would bounce off of them, but actually it took well to the sides, and even the areas where there was a little bit of a gap between the reed and the ceiling. I did quite a thick mix because I wanted it to stick well. So yeah, fairly pleased with that, and it'll be a couple of weeks before the next covering goes on there, and then after that another couple of weeks, and then I will skim it and we'll see how it looks. And then the second coat of base plaster is now been applied. It's a bit rough. Hopefully I'll be able to sort that out with the finishing plaster. I mean, the ceiling's really wobbly anyway. It's a very, very uneven ceiling. So it don't look a lot better than before I started. So I've now completed the two skims on the patches that I did previously, and actually I'm fairly pleased with how they've come out. You can't really see the areas that I plastered below. I was a bit concerned that some of the plastering was a bit scrappy underneath this skim, but actually you can't really see where the patches were, which is as it should be. There was one there, there was one there, there was a big one there, there was one near the light, and there was one over in the corner. I'm not the best at plastering ceilings by any stretch of the imagination, but it's quite good enough for me. The ceiling is quite knobbly still, but that's just the way it's always going to be, and I'm glad I've managed to repair it using the reeds that were originally on it, and it's come out okay. So anybody that stumbles across reeds in their ceiling and is tempted to pull the whole thing down, don't. You can patch it like I have, and then skim the lot, and this probably will be good for another 50, 60 years, I'd imagine, maybe even longer. Thank you for watching.